Can companies get 10 million Bitcoin? First, no, because I think by my estimates, we've probably lost like 5 million coins. So there's probably maybe 16 million coins out there with a bit under a million to be mined still. So I would say maybe the best case scenario is corporations end up with 3 million coins, and you have governments with another few million, and then the rest is just held by individuals.
How would you say that the culture has changed over the years that you've been in Bitcoin?
It's evolved, I would say. But I don't think it's reasonable to expect it's always going to be punk rock, or I prefer alternative rock, for forever and ever and ever. Like, if Bitcoin was to be valuable, it's inevitable that governments and corporations will want it, just like in human history. Anything that's valuable, people in power will want it. And they don't really get to dictate the creation of value. And they have, I guess you could say, with fiat, but that experiment is drawing to a close very rapidly. So we're going back to hard money, and everyone wants hard money, whether you're a pleb or a podcaster or a corporation or a nation state. That's just how it works. Money makes the world go around. Money is the base layer of civilization. So, having the suits come, so to speak, is an inevitability. And I think you have to be okay with that. Like, I think people often get mixed up in their anarchist libertarian view of what could be, but you're never really going to get rid of governments, at least not for the time being. But separation of money and state will result in smaller governments and less powerful governments and more powerful people, like more powerful plebs. So I think that is a good rebalancing of the situation. But yeah, it's going to evolve, and it will continue to evolve as people want Bitcoin. I don't see the corporate Bitcoin craze going away, simply because it is not about retail investors. Maybe there are some that target retail investors, and maybe that's not ideal. But by and large, if you look at strategy, their target is not retail investors. They're targeting institutional grade investors. They're targeting the bond market, the fixed income markets. And it's very obvious with their preferred shares, right? And people can participate, but that's not who the main focus is. And I think if there are more treasury companies and they are targeting and trying to arbitrage between the legacy system and the new Bitcoin system, that is a good thing to have in play. And it's not necessarily bad for Bitcoin. It's just different. But if you think hyper-Bitcoinization is inevitable, then this is part of that flow and that process.
The real question here is what's the real mission, right? And the real mission, at least from my point of view, is to separate money from state. And when you are talking to representatives of governments, I mean, the power to print money is one of their greatest abilities, right? So do you ever get to that level of conversation of separating money from state? And have you ever seen them have the light bulb go on and realize, oh, Bitcoin could do that?
I would say no, we haven't really had those discussions, and I don't think it's a productive discussion to have. It's better to focus on the ways that Bitcoin can benefit them. Like, if you look at Bhutan, I think a lot of the work on Bitcoin adoption there was driven by mining companies. I think Bitmain that went there early on, and I don't think they said, if you mine Bitcoin, you'll separate money from state. It was more like, you have excess energy, you can mine Bitcoin, and do things, build the roads, build airports, whatever you need. And that's sort of the more practical, pragmatic approach, I would say, than saying this separates money from state and getting into that whole discussion. In fact, like most discussions we have as Jan 3, we try not to talk too much about the technicals and even things like the 21 million limit, unless we're saying it's scarce and trying to drive home a point there. But it's just framing Bitcoin as something that can help them with their current problems is far more likely to lead to the adoption of Bitcoin rather than trying to drive it by exerting our political or philosophical motives.
Yes, a sly and roundabout way, right? That's what we need. And zooming back out to America and the debt situation we have here, right? We just passed $37 trillion. The big, beautiful bill was passed, and Ray Dalio made a post today about how we're looking at government spending of $7 trillion a year, and on a good year, we'll bring in $5 trillion of tax revenue, right? This debt issue is a serious problem, and do you think that is the main catalyst that will cause this rapid repricing of Bitcoin any day now?
Well, I think the rapid repricing is just waiting right now to happen. You have the ETFs, which eliminate all the barriers to Bitcoin acquisition. In previous cycles, you always had a bottleneck with exchanges onboarding people and companies, right? They would just get bottlenecked for months. But with the ETFs, that bottleneck is gone. It's just money will flow in anytime. It's like a portal to TradFi money. And then you have the demand from all the corporations. You have nation states starting to line up and go through their own processes to allow for accumulation. So all of that combined with the current financial system and all of the money printing from past decades, more pertinently probably from the last 5 years, is all coming to a head. So even without the big beautiful bill, Bitcoin will explode to the upside. But the big beautiful bill just guarantees it, in fact. So nothing really stops the train, in the words of Lynn Alden. So yeah, I think the big beautiful bill should open some more eyes and accelerate the takeoff or the liftoff of the Bitcoin rocket. Because if you look at what Ray Dalio is posting, 7 trillion a year translates to about 64 million BTC. So 3-ish Bitcoin networks are going to be spent per year. So you can kind of figure out and reason out that Bitcoin is cheap right now at $110,000-ish a coin.
Yeah, and we are expecting Omega candles, right? Michael Saylor said that 21 million Bitcoin price in 21 years. And you said for that to happen, you need to go up $1 million a year.
On average.
On average. So do you think that if we were to get to 21 million, are we in this new stair step up grind for Bitcoin where we don't see the same bear markets as before and we're just moving up, or you're all in the S curve adoption, right?
Yeah, one of our team members did some analysis, and 56% of all corporate Bitcoin buys happened in the last few months. So that's not an indication that we're going to stair step up. And if you look at strategy alone, their acquisition is accelerating. So I just can't see the stair step up. Stair step up is a graceful ascent, and it violates the principle of max pain theory, which is the thing that's most likely to happen is what inflicts the most pain on the most number of people. And that is that everyone misses the boat because they weren't paying attention, or they thought Bitcoin was expensive, or they just thought Bitcoin is going to go away. So stair step up means everyone has time to learn. They're going to watch as it goes up, a little bit every day, gradually for the next 21 years. And that's just unlikely in my book. It seems like we're reaching corporate FOMO. We're going to get nation state FOMO and then retail FOMO. And all of that's going to mean a very steep adoption curve.
And we have that event that causes that repricing of Bitcoin. What does that world look like for you? Do you expect your phone to be ringing off the hook of governments finally realizing, oh, wow, we need to get our hands on this and coming to you for more?
Well, we do see a lot more interest now, but the question is, how fast can governments move? And the answer is not that fast. So even if you look at cities, the speed at which a city can adopt a Bitcoin treasury is slow too. The city of Vancouver is looking towards that. The Mayor Ken Sim has been pushing for the city to adopt, but it'll take maybe another 8 to 12 months of research, presentations to the board, and then possibly passing some bylaws or whatnot to allow them to have Bitcoin in a treasury. And this is a lot of red tape to cross. And it's the same for countries, if not worse.
And so once we cross that chasm, what does the world look like? what does the hyper Bitcoiners world look like, feel like? What is the nature of work and relations amongst people?
Well, there are differing opinions on this. I think we hit hyperbitcoinization somewhere at 0.5 million a coin, and we start devaluing gold and or demonetizing gold and real estate, which are both massive chunks of the global wealth. And Bitcoin goes up very quickly to 1 million, 2, 3, and at that point, nobody will take dollars for payment. So you won't be able to buy a TV or a car with fiat money. They'll say, oh, we want Bitcoin. And what it looks like for the average person is that they'll just be paid in sats. So you'll be earning, 20 sats an hour for minimum wage or something like that.
So looking ahead towards the rest of 2025, what's on the docket for you in Jan 3?
We have a lot more meetings lined up. Hopefully we'll get somewhere with some nation state adoption. And maybe we'll see some more interesting things on the corporate adoption front. We'll see. I think there are interesting opportunities out there that I've been talking to people about. And probably a lot more Aqua push. Like so far, we haven't really pushed Aqua. We've been focused on stabilizing, fixing bugs, but we are rolling out a new UI, hopefully in the next 2 weeks, TM, and that will encompass some localization push as well. So like all the adoption we have right now is like with half done localization, and we haven't really done a proper job of that. But once we have that and we have all the bug fixes, the big focus will be on integrations, local integrations in different countries to allow on and off ramping, buying and selling Bitcoin, peer-to-peer Bitcoin trading, and tapping into local government rails like SimPay in Costa Rica and Pix in Brazil. Yeah, I think we're a bit different. So we're okay with corporates and governments adopting Bitcoin. We're actively advising governments and fielding questions and engaging with them. But at the same time, the real value of Bitcoin is the grassroots level and ordinary people using it. So we're also fueling that part of the growth cycle as well.
What is the best way to onboard someone into Bitcoin in 2025?
I mean, it seems like a no-brainer for us, but the best way is to, say, look at the equity markets. Look at BlackRock and just analyze their growth with their ETF over the last year and how much it contributes to their revenue. And, there's not really much else to say. But BlackRock is the largest asset manager on the planet, and Bitcoin is their new unicorn, so to speak. And if that doesn't convince you, then, nothing else can really.
Yeah.
For a normal person, right? Like you can try first principles and explaining the origin of money, why bearer assets are important, devaluation, all those things. But I think that's just harder. It takes a lot more effort to understand that because most people have been inoculated and grown up in a fiat system where they just assume dollars on their screen in their bank is money.